Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to be customizing a bag. This is my new lineup of bag options. Let's do this one. Some of you may remember this bag from when I customized a nameplate from Disney into Nickelodeon. I'll leave that video in the description below. This started out as a little mermaid, and as you can see, I've already prepped the bag. As far as fabric goes, we're making this into a Spongebob crossbody. I got this particular fabric from Itchin' to Get Stitchin', which will also be linked in the description. I believe she had a couple of different background options, but I just love the way the black looks, so let's get started. The first thing that we start by doing is rough cutting our fabric, and I've already mapped out where I want the characters to be. I really want that pineapple in the front center of my bag. Luckily this bag only has two sides, front and back, so we only need two pieces of fabric. Easy peasy. The next step is treating our fabric. We're going to first lay down some wax paper and then use blue painter's tape to keep the fabric in place. I use Eau de Coat gel because it makes the fabric water resistant, waterproof. You just want to make sure that you apply it all over the fabric evenly and make sure there's no globs or streaks on your fabric before letting it dry. I'm using a card for application. If for some reason you don't receive one of these when you order the Eau de Coat, using an old credit card or library card works just as well. Remember though, whatever card you use, it will get ruined. You'll notice on the first layer is when the fabric is really soaking in that gel. You'll need less product by the time we do the second and third coat. After waiting an hour is when we're going to apply the second layer, and then we'll wait another hour for the final layer. After that, we wait 24 hours before we iron to cure the Eau de Coat. Before we iron, let's first lay down some parchment paper. The idea is that we're going to sandwich the piece of fabric in between two pieces of parchment paper. I like to cut off any untreated parts of the fabric. Then on the blend setting, I'll iron each piece for around 45 seconds to a minute to cure the Eau de Coat. Your fabric will now feel smooth, which means it's cured and we're ready to begin assembling. As always, I'm going to use the brand Fabri-Tac to glue my fabric down. I'm starting with the back panel and I've already placed exactly where I want the characters to be. I work section by section to make my life easier, and I want to get a smooth glue application. That way we don't get any bubbles in the fabric or anything like that. I'm going to use the metal spatula to make an indent where the bag seams meet. This is where I'll be tucking the fabric into, so after I have that indent, I'll cut maybe 1 millimeter or 2 away from that line. That way I don't have too much fabric where it bunches in on itself and not enough where it doesn't actually reach the seam. After that, I'm just laying down my glue, and again working section by section, you want to make sure you get glue into that seam that we'll be tucking into. And then for my tucking tool, I actually use a dental pick that I bought specifically for crafting. So an accident while tucking in the fabric, my tool skipped the seam and scratched the bottom of the bag. There's two solutions that we could do, either repair and color match or put fabric over it. I decided to go the fabric route, so off camera I cut and treated a piece that we'll do later on. As far as the corners of this bag goes, I decided to cut along that seam and then tuck the fabric into the space. Another alternative, you can always fold the fabric in on itself and then tuck it. Think of like wrapping a gift, how you fold the paper in on itself. It's the same concept. It's a bit repetitive from here, cutting, gluing, tucking, so as I continue to repeat these steps, I'm just going to let some background music play, so either enjoy or feel free to skip ahead. Okay, so here's where it gets a little different. We have to cut the fabric around our bag's handles. In order to do that, I just cut a straight line down where the straps are, and then I do the same method where I indent with my spatula where the handle meets the bag, and I cut along that so we have just enough fabric to tuck in underneath the handle seams. I'm starting with this middle section first, but that's just a preference. When we do the front side of the bag, I'll glue the outer sides first just to show you it doesn't matter the order of what section you want to glue down this part. Also, you may have noticed that I did cut the fabric vertically behind the handles. I'll be patching the split fabric back together, and you won't even be able to notice that it was ever cut to begin with. But the handles are a good way of camouflaging ever having to split the fabric just in case of a potential error or whatever. It's a good hiding spot. I use acetone to remove any excess glue. You probably want to do a patch test because Loungefly is kind of all over the place with the quality of their bags. So most are okay with acetone, but I've ran into a few where the color will come off, and in those cases I just touch up with leather paint. And here you can see me mending those two pieces back together. And with over half of the backside done, I'm just going to finish the other corner off camera and we'll take a look at the progress. Here's the back side of the bag complete, and for the front side I'm going to be doing most of it off camera as well, but I do want to show you the process of the corners again, and then I'll give you instructions on how we cut around the nameplate. Alright, so you can actually feel underneath the fabric where the nameplate is, and I'm going to cut out that same shape as the nameplate, and just like the same concept of the handles, we're going to cut the fabric so it's maybe 1 millimeter inward of the seam's edge. I'll insert a photo for reference of what it should look like. For this part, it's definitely better to cut a little bit at a time so you don't cut off too much at once. But if you do cut off too much, remember that this fabric has stretch, so worst case scenario, you can always manipulate the fabric or even do some minimal patchwork. And now we just tuck and finish up this section. We can't forget the bottom, which is just repetitive, so let's skip to the aftermath. The bottom came out great. It just goes to show you if you ever run into an issue with customizing, everything can always be fixed one way or another. Okay, hear me out. The purple looks good, but I'm thinking that black would look better. What do you guys think? And just to give you an idea of what I did throughout the whole bag, I took my black leather paint and I went over any area that was purple. Then to protect the paint, I coated it with an acrylic finisher in a satin sheen. And with that, let's look at our final bag. And here it is. What do you guys think? I personally think it came out great, and I'm definitely happy with the black better than the purple. Here's a look at the bottom of the bag, and then I added a fun Mr. Krabs keychain to the side. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If you want, feel free to like and subscribe. And until next time, bye friends!